Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome along to the next instalment, or next in the series, really, we should say now, of former Stevenage players joining for these interviews. And today we've got Darryn Stamp. So how you doing, Stampy?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Yeah, really good. So, yeah, glad I can have a chat with you, really, because it's good for me to talk about football. It's not something I do very often now, because apart from the two kids that are playing that are like 12 and 9, it's not something that I do unless I try and get it into my classes every now and again when I'm having a chat with students.
Yeah, and of course you had a good time when you were at Stevenage as well. You played for a couple of years over there, and of course originally you were with Chester City, and then even before you signed for Stevenage, you and Daryl Clare had that pretty decent partnership between the pair of you two, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, it's crazy now when you look back and think it's 15 years since I was at Stevenage. I mean, Jesus, time flies. But no, to be fair, I had 2 good years down there, and obviously the first year will have been better than the second one when we got to the playoff final. But I had some really good times there and met some really good people down there, and it's great to go back down south every now and again when we get the opportunity with the family now.
And what was it? What were sort of the reasons why you decided to join up with Stevenage in the first place?
To be honest, I'd fallen out of favour a bit at Chester. So the previous season, we'd been promoted to the Football League at Chester. And like you say, I had a really good season and scored plenty of goals. But then we saw a change in management, and that's what football's like nowadays. A new manager comes in, maybe don't fancy you as much as the last one, and straight away you're up against it from day one again. So having fallen out of favour at Chester, then Stevenage showed interest. There's a couple of clubs actually showing a bit of interest, and to be honest, once I spoke to Graham Wesley, and he sold the club to me in terms of where he wanted it to go, where he saw it heading. I mean, it sounded so good from that first chat, really. And then obviously my wife and myself drove down to the ground, had a look around the stadium, loved the stadium, and it seemed to be a great environment. So yeah, jumped at the chance, really. It was a great opportunity.
And you came via a loan at Kidderminster as well. You had a few games with them, didn't you, before you signed at Stevenage?
Yeah, I think he had a month at Kidderminster, and they were in League Two at the time, so it was good to go and get a few League Two games at the time. But to be fair, the club was struggling down at the bottom of League Two, so I think we took a couple of hidings in those 6 games, and I think one of the games was Yeovil away on a Tuesday night. So as loan spells go, I think you can get better ones than the one that he had at Kidderminster.
In regards to debuts, you can't get much better though, because on your Stevenage debut, you got a brace there. So what was that like for you?
Yeah, it was great. To be honest, walking into the club felt great. Anyway, the lads were on a high. They seemed to be buzzing, and like we're really looking forward to getting on a good roll in that season. And for some reason, it sticks in my mind that even before the game in the changing room, I like met Bruffy the day before, but having a chat with Bruffy, and I said, I don't even know why, because I'm not like that in the slightest. But I said to him, I'll get a brace today, and It was just bizarre. It really was. And then, like you said, to score 2 in that game as well, off to a great start, and then you move on from there. It was brilliant.
It's a great game as well. What was it? Was it 4-1, 3 or 4-1?
3-1, I think. 3-1, 4-1. Yeah, but
yeah, it was something like that. I know you got a couple, and of course you were partnering Anthony Eldon up front as well. So what was it like playing with Ant?
Ant had so much ability. So much ability. It was unbelievable. Some games you'd look and you think, oh my God, where's that come from? And that's why he went on to play for Leeds and went over to Turkey and everything else that he did. I mean, fair play to him. At that level, he was head and shoulders above that, really, and could have played a lot higher, which he went on to do. But yeah, it was a great addition for us, and it was good to link up with him as well.
And then you mentioned there in regards to Graham bringing you in. So, tell us a little bit about Graham's styles as well, in regards to, what he was like, how he worked you guys.
Graham was a brilliant motivator for players. And look, he's not everybody's cup of tea, and I get that completely. You can look at the clubs that he's run, and you can see why some players maybe wouldn't buy into that. But at that moment in time and at that club, you had great players that gelled together and that bought into it. And look, we'd be in the gym at 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, all singing and banging weights out while there's music blaring out. but that was the character of the club, and that's what he wanted. He wanted everybody to gel together and to bond together. And I mean, don't get me wrong, he did more than anybody in those circuit sessions. He'd be on the bike and he'd be sweating more than anybody. So he was giving as good as he was asking us to do. And it was one of them where, yeah, he got together a good group of players that gelled. And I think I look back and I'm disappointed really that we didn't win that playoff final, because I think that would have been the icing on the cake, and we maybe could have done well that season after as well.
Yeah, so you mentioned there in regards to the playoff final. What was it like playing in that game? And of course, you had that chance as well. That I know you possibly think you might have done better with, where you could have actually put us one up.
To be honest, it's one of them where the game was that long ago. It does go out of your memory. But yeah, I remember going into the change room after the game and being absolutely gutted. But I think as a team, it was Carlisle Aldershot in the semi-final, and I think because we'd beaten Carlisle twice, and in the season, I think we went into it maybe a little bit too confident. And I know that you do that every so often, but I think it might have been different if we'd have got Aldershot in the final. I think because we got Carlisle, I think many of us thought, you know what, we've beaten twice, we're going to do it again. Not that we took our foot off the gas or anything like that, but as it happened, I think on the day, their experienced players, their big players, stood up and they were men mountain. The two centre halves I didn't get anything from. That Derek Holmes up front was battering our centre halves about it, and it was one of them where on the day, I've read that we were the better team and we had more chances. Whereas I don't look at it like that. I look at it, it was disappointing for us, and at the end of the day, we didn't go up. So yeah, it's one that you look back at frustrating.
We've got a message here from Richard as well saying, "Hi Darren, good to see you again." We've got
yeah, great. To be honest, there's that many fans from Stevenage that I have fond memories of, and from even before games, after games, even when we used to go in the bar after the games and have a chat. It was always one of them places where win, lose or draw, you could go in the bar and have a chat with fans, and that's what it was about for me. It was never a case of we've lost, so I'm off home. It was a case of, look, go in, hold your hand up. Yeah, I want great, and the fans knew that you give your all, and it was great to be a part of.
That's right. We've got Solomon and Anne in there as well, so hopefully they're doing all right. So let's go into a little bit about some of the other guys that you played with a little bit as well. George Boyd was coming through that youth team into the seniors as well at that point. So when did you sort of, see that he would go on, and, what kind of ability did he have? Well, obviously everyone knows what ability he had, but when did you know he was going to be that good?
Yeah, to be fair, in one of the first training sessions, when he saw some of the skills that he was pulling off, it was like, oh my God, what have we got here type thing. I mean, don't get me wrong, back then he had a couple of bits of string hanging out of his shorts. He was that skinny, he was young, wanting, he was just developing. But yeah, some of the things that he do in training were frightening. And then there's actually one game that sticks out at home, and he's done a bit of skill against a probably 33, 34-year-old, and I've gone because I'm thinking, I know next you're going to get one of them tackles, but that's where, and if anything now, that flair, some of the managers get rid of that and they don't like it because it's showboat and everything else, where I love watching Boyd, I love training with him. And then to be fair, obviously he came and signed for my hometown club, Hull City. And so I went to watch him a few times at Hull, and yeah, fair play to him. He's gone on and done brilliantly.
We've got a message there from Richard saying we want George back, bring George home, because obviously he's on the transfer list over at Peterborough. That'd be great if he was to ever get a return to Stevenage. I know he's going to be on probably quite crazy wages now, but
it'd be a nice little story as well, wouldn't it, to start and finish at the same place and everything like that. And fans love that type when the only thing is, from Boyd's point of view, I think there's always that little niggle in the back of your mind that what if you go back and it don't work out and you don't perform and you're not at the level that everybody's expecting. There's always that it could end maybe a little bit negatively as well. So yeah, don't get me wrong, it'd be brilliant to see Boyd go back to Stevenage, but I'm sure if he can still play in League One, then that's something that I'll be striving to do as well.
Yeah, definitely. We've got a message here from Rai as well. What team do you support?
I am actually Hull City, to be fair. I mean, both my lads, like I said, 12-year-old and 9-year-old, are both season ticket supporters. So they both go and watch all the home games, obviously not at the moment. But having said that, the games that I went to watch with them last season were dreadful. They really were. nil ball draws, and it's like teams are setting up to not get beat now rather than go and attack teams. So did find it a little bit frustrating, but yeah, it's all City that I follow at the moment, as well as the other 83 clubs that I used to play for as well. So I've got a lot of following to do.
And do you stay, do you kind of do that? Do you follow as many teams as you can who you used to play for, who were part of your career?
Yeah, I always do. I always look out for Chester and Scunthorpe and Northampton, Stevenage. Yeah, always just to see how they've got on and whether they're promoting, relegated. That's where, like, obviously, when you saw Stevenage were going down originally, it's like, geez, and they don't need that because that conference is a bloody tough league to get back out of.
Yeah.
So it's brilliant that that's not happened now. But yeah, it's got that many to look out for. It's hard to keep track.
I'm sure they probably play each other a few times. Stevenage and Northampton were, and then Northampton got promoted and stuff. So what do you do in that situation?
Yeah, it's one of them, like draw. Settle for a draw unless one's near the top and one needs points to avoid relegation. Yeah, it's interesting.
We've got AJ in there, Jules as well. He says, yes, big Stampy, great times that we had. He was, of course, part of that team as well. We got to the final of the playoffs.
Yeah, Jules was class for us, to be fair. Such a good keeper. I remember, in fact, I think we both went on trial at the same time. Our first game was MK Dons. It was a reserve game, and we both turned up on the same night and played the first same game there. And to be fair to him, he was brilliant in the game and got signed, and I wasn't great, but still got signed. So, but he carried on, and to be fair to him, yeah, great keeper. I caught up with him maybe a few seasons ago when I had my assistant manager's spell at North Ferriby, and Jules was playing for, was he Weymouth at the time or somebody down south? Anyway, I can't remember which club it was, but caught up with him then, and yeah, he seems to be doing well. So great lad as well. Great lad.
Is it Billericay at the moment? He's still there. With
Ronnie Henry.
Yeah, with Ronnie. Ronnie's still there. Laurie Wilson signed there as well now.
Oh, bro.
So there's a little Stevenage connection between the three of those.
Yeah, well, bizarrely, when was it? Maybe a couple of years ago, we went to show our boys where we used to live in St Albans, and went into London and got the train and did everything that we did. And we went for a walk around St Albans Park and bumped into Ronnie Henry walking around the park in St Albans. Honestly, it was bizarre. So I stood and had a chat with Ronnie for a bit, and he was telling me how he was Billericay as well. So yeah, it was good to catch up with him.
We've got a message here as well. That was in regards to George Boyd about if he was to come back and finish his career at Stevenage, that would be excellent. Ryder, did you ever play at Home Park or the Riverside? So Plymouth or Middlesbrough?
Played at Plymouth. In fact, I played there on a Tuesday night and we got beat 5-0. And it was the longest journey home ever because that was when I was at Scunthorpe United.
Oh, so wow. That is a bit of a trek.
And yeah, it was awful. Yeah. Love the stadium, though. They've added to it as well. They've built a couple of really good stands to it, haven't they, as well? Bro.
Yeah. Richard, did you watch Northampton in the playoff final, and what did you make of that as well?
Yeah, I thought they were very good. They did look a good side in the playoff final. And to be fair to him, he's gone in and done well, Keith Cale, hasn't he? Because he's had a few jobs. Where people have maybe questioned him, but to go in and do that, yeah, I thought he performed really well. Did great.
Yeah, Stevenage reserves down at Billericay, yeah. We've got Kieran in as well, who was the physio. How's your car? I don't know what this story relates to, but yeah.
Wow, that is a brave comment. Yeah. So obviously, well, nobody will know probably, but I can't even remember where we was. We had an away game, and because it was somewhere up north, I've asked the physios to take my car up to where we was meeting and having pre-match meal, to the ground, so that I could then drive home from there. And one of the other lads had asked the physios to do the same as well. So Kieran took one, Pete headed, took the other one. They've ploughed into each other on a roundabout and written both the cars off.
Oh, wow.
The car actually got ruined and got written off on the way to an away. So, yeah, that's brave of him to bring that up. What a bad driver he was.
I'm sure he's probably learnt a bit since then.
Yeah.
Sure, he's used that as an experience. Probably doesn't do too much of that joyriding, was it, Kieran? Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? I'm sure when I looked back, where they were, I'm sure they weren't even driving properly, and I could see them both dancing in the front of the cars like that. There's no
Yeah.
wonder they really wrote both the cars off.
Yeah, absolutely. If that's the case. Yeah, you played a big part in our run to the playoffs there as well. You actually scored against Carlisle in the league, in the league game, didn't you? In one of the league games, you scored quite a few. Scarborough, Woking as well. Ebbsfleet, Lee RMI. You scored against quite a few of those teams. So what was it like to play in those sort of games? And of course, Woking as well. The big derby there, the big rivalry.
Yeah, they were always good games, to be fair. And like you say, the Carlisle one, that's why it's so frustrating in the playoff final. Because we went up there on a Tuesday night, we won 2-1. I'd scored two, and
Yeah.
not found it easy, but I felt we were comfortable in the game. And that's why when it come to the final and they did us over 1-0 there, it was so frustrating. But I suppose in the position that I was never expecting myself to score 30 goals a season. I never thought I'd get 25, 30. If I could get 15, if I could get 10, 15, I always wanted whoever I played up front with to get more than I did. And so that's where, like playing with Darrell Clare, scoring 20, 30, if I could get Anthony Elding goals, playing up front with him, whoever I played up front with, I was just as happy if they got the goals, if it was coming from my flick-ons or from my assists, whatever it might be. But yeah, obviously scoring the goal is a great feeling. And I think they went through a spell where I took penalties as well for Stevenage as well. So I remember scoring two at home to Kidderminster, two
That's
penalties.
right,
So anytime you get a goal, it's a great feeling. But I think as a target man, you judge just as much on how much you can assist and set players up as well. So any goal's a bonus, I suppose.
And how much did you enjoy those derby games as well, the Wokens and games like that?
Yeah, they were good games to play. And in fact, the weirdest one I remember playing on was at home. It was like a bloody ice rink. It was so skinny, and like everywhere you couldn't keep your balance. And it was, to be fair, looking back, it was dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
It was dangerous. It might have been finished 0-0 unless somebody got a last minute winner or something like that. But yeah, there were always good games to play in. And I see Jay Goodliff actually made the step across to the dark side, didn't he, as well? At some point, he went and was assistant manager and played for them as well for a bit. So yeah, they're always good games to play, and that goes for any derby, whichever club you're at. You always like playing in the derby games, and you're always like being involved with them.
Chris there as well. Did you live down here when you played for Stevenage? So were you living in St Albans? Is that where you were living? Yeah.
Yeah, I lived in St Albans, and that was great because moving from Chester's such a lovely city, lovely place to be for me and my wife. And so when we actually went and had a chat with Graham and the club, they were looking at like similar places that were around Stevenage for us to live, and that's where like we dropped upon St Albans really. And yeah, it was a great position for us to be in because, like I said, like weekends, me and my wife would jump on the train, and 30 minutes later we're in London and having a wander around on a Sunday. So yeah, it was a lovely place to live.
And we got another question there I'll come to in a minute. But in your second season, you started off pretty well. Actually, you were in quite good form. I think you got 3 in the first 6 there. How important was it to you to get off the mark early on in that season as well?
Yeah, I think you always put a bit of pressure on yourself as a player. You always want to get off to a good start because even if you might have had a good season the previous season, you're starting again from scratch pre-season. You're judged on your games and your results and how you're performing. So you're always wanting to get off to that good start. So yeah, if I got 3 in the first 6, then that's me off and running, and it's a case of right, let's push on now and push on. I think the following season when Graham had left and Mark Stimson came in, it was again like everybody was starting from scratch. So once again, you're trying to impress, you're trying to get your face in, I suppose. You're trying to get that place cemented down and nailed down. And obviously, for whatever reason, that didn't work out with Mark. But again, that's just down to the manager's opinion. And managers come in, some love you, some hate you, and that's just part and parcel of being a footballer. It's just what you've got to accept, I suppose.
What do you make of the current squad that we've got for this season, if you know too much about it? And, of course, Alex Ravel and Lenny Lawrence as well, who are at the helm.
Yeah, by the looks of it, it's looking good. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not like I know the ins and outs and I know everybody that's involved and where it's gone, but seem to be signing some good experienced players. And I think in League Two, you need that. you need that good blend of old heads that have been there and done it, but then also that youth and that flair, if you can, that'll add to that. And look, Alex Revell's played at that level in League One and above for years now, so he'll know that inside out. And as much as he's maybe not been a manager, I'm sure he'll have a good idea about what he's going to be coming up against week in, week out. And so, looks to be a good little squad that he's putting together.
And of course, Lenny Lawrence as well. We just mentioned there. A great old head around to help him out as well. Really experienced pro.
Yeah, and that's going to do him no end of good. You always want to be picking the brains of people that have been there and done it. So, especially when you're coming in with no first team managerial experience, yeah. I'm sure that'll be great for him to pick off as. And he'll learn on the job. It might be week 6, week 7, week 8. He picks other things up, and he's just going to continue to develop throughout the season. And like you say, hopefully he'll go on and have a good managerial career as well. And this will be the starting point of it.
And hopefully it's for Stevenage, they're challenging at the right end of the table this time and not in another relegation scrap again like last season, because that was just a horrendous season by just all stretches of the imagination, really, the way that it all went. And even with the coronavirus as well, it kind of ended in a strange way with that. And it's just been a freak season, on and off the pitch, really, in that respect.
Yeah, and I think whenever you're down at the bottom or whenever you're having a tricky season or a struggling season, there tends to be negativity everywhere, and it's hard to get away from it. As soon as you start batting games, and as much as crowds are supporters and they want to be behind you, as soon as things start going wrong in games, you hear the groans and you hear the oh, here we go again type thing. So it's hard to get out of that, and it becomes like a cyclical thing. It's as soon as things start bad, you're just expecting it to happen again. So again, really, Alex will be looking at this season and thinking, right, can we get off to a good start? Can we change the mindset of the supporters, the players, and everybody in and around? And can we get off on a good footing?
Yeah, absolutely. You scored in the first round proper of the FA Cup as well against Kettering. So, what are your experiences of that sort of competition? Was it the FA Cup or the FA Trophy? It was one of the two.
Might have been the FA Cup. Was that Gaza manager for Kettering? Maybe
Possibly. I know.
Yeah, because if memory takes me back correctly, I remember Ant Eldin having a chat with Gaza on the side because they played together at Boston. I think, did we win quite easily in that game, the FA Cup game? I remember him being on the sideline, and don't get me wrong, it might be the wrong time, but yeah, FA Cup's always a great occasion, isn't it? It's always one of them where you want to do well and progress as far as you can to see who you can get. I mean, to be fair, when you're in the non-league, you start at the first qualifying round, second qualifying round, and you feel like you've got that many games before you get to the first round. So, yeah, hopefully you can get yourself a good side this season and go as far as you can in it as well.
And of course, Stevenage do have a lot of history when it comes to cup upsets and things like that as well. With the Newcastle ties, the original one and the more recent one as well from 2011. The Spurs taking Spurs to a replay as well after drawing at Broadwell way down here. And we've had ties against Stoke, ties against Everton in the League Cup and the FA Cup. We played Everton and Reading and some other really good teams in there as well.
Yeah, like I said, the FA Cup's a brilliant competition, and anybody that don't want to play in it is bonkers for me. I mean, League Two is a little bit different. I think if you're in the conference and you're thinking of challenging and you want to be up there, then you get trophies like the FA Trophy and you get other little cups that you might get involved in. And yeah, at times people will say it, but you maybe do want to concentrate on the league, and it's like a squad rotation thing. Whereas for me, the FA Cup shouldn't be. It should be one of them where everybody strives to get as far as they can in it because it's a great competition.
And I follow Arsenal as well, so I know completely that it's a fantastic trophy there because Arsenal are the record holders as well. So I get to see it both ends of the spectrum really in regards to Arsenal winning it a number of seasons, and then hopefully Stevenage having a good cup run as well.
Well, Arsenal have been my second club after Hull City. I must say, Arsenal have been my second club. It's something that my eldest picked up as well. He's an Arsenal fan and Hull City fan now. I mean, to be fair, for us, 2014 was like, oh no, what do we want to happen now? That FA Cup final when Hull City went 2-0 up after 10 minutes. We're like, oh, what's happening here? And then Arsenal won, so it was a bit bittersweet, I suppose.
We've got Dean in as well. Just singing your song there. I'm not going to sing it on screen, but
Yeah, love it.
it was a good song actually as well.
Yeah.
And then we got a message here from Richard. We got Barrow on Saturday in the first league game as well. Last time we played them was when they beat us in the final with the FA Trophy, and that was when we could have had the double. So how do you reckon, Stevenage are going to get on at the weekend? Do you reckon they'll start off with a good win?
You're away at Barrow, aren't you?
Yeah.
Now, I don't know when you last went there, but it's not got much better because we played there a couple of seasons ago, and for me, going up to Barrow is a complete mindset game. It's one of them where the changing rooms aren't great. Behind the goal, you get fans shouting at you from really close distance as you walk out of that tunnel. They tend to get good.
Not on Saturday, there won't be.
Yeah. It'll be a different experience on Saturday. So it's maybe one of them where you're playing them at a good time. I mean, the stadium, it's not one of them where players walk out onto the stadium and think, geez, look at this, how good is this? It is, to me, it's a proper old non-league ground where, it's going to take a bit of getting up to for the players. But like you said, get off to a good start. They're coming up from the conference as well, so I'll try and lay the law down early and get on top of them early doors.
And of course, that's the second game for Stevenage because they had the Carabao Cup where they drew with Portsmouth as well, and only narrowly lost on penalties there. After going, I think they were 2-0 up within 10 minutes and then 3-1 up as well. And I'm sure Alex has worked on a few bits and pieces defensively to tighten it up at the back for the weekend.
Yeah, I think with that cup coming in so early, it's a tough one for managers really because you've not completed your pre-season as yet really. Through what's gone on in COVID, you've got to almost accept that last 20 minutes, half an hour, players are going to tire. It's normal, it's natural. You're still not in your peak physical fitness, so I think you've got to half expect that. So it proves out what they've got in the locker because they were 2-0 up after so long, and they're scoring goals. To me, that's a bonus for any manager. If you're going into the start of the season scoring goals, that's a great start for you.
And last season under Dino, it took I think it was about 6 or 7 games to even get the first 3 goals. So to get it in your first game is a big improvement there. And I know Alex is going to be very pleased with that, having a good starting block. But going back to your time at the club as well. So for you personally, it was an excellent season, actually. Was it the second season where you went on to get 13 goals? So how pleased were you with your overall contribution to that season, to that side?
Yeah, it's one of them again, Mike, where it's a bit difficult because yes, you've got your own personal achievements and what you've got throughout that year, but I think overall that season we'll look back and think, how did we not even get into the playoffs, let alone not get promoted? Because obviously getting beaten in the playoff final the season before, there was not pressure on us, but it was almost like we expected ourselves to be up there and to be challenging, if not winning the league, then in the playoffs, and not even getting the playoffs was very frustrating for us. And like you say, I maybe scored 13 goals, but that's not how I look back at that season. I look back at it as frustration that we didn't get where we could have got to as a team.
Yeah, and of course, I'm sure you and a lot of the ex-players that played in the conference and got to that final. I'm sure all of you are just exceptionally pleased and glad that we're in the Football League now as well. And it's a great place to stay. And of course, did you follow much of the club's rise through the Football League from League Two and winning the playoffs there, and going up to the playoffs in League One as well?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think as soon as I left the club, it just went onwards and upwards. It's one of them where the trophy wins. I mean, come on, the times that I'm watching Stevenage walk out at Wembley for the trophy final, I'm thinking, geez, fair play, that's such a great achievement. And I know, to get there and to do that, that's a brilliant achievement. And then to go on in League Two and League One, and brilliant. It's one of them where the club deserved it. It's great for the fans to be part of that. And obviously the teams that were put together were good enough to do that. And let's see how far I can get again. And
you mentioned that you played under Graham. So what was it like that? Of course we mentioned what it was like to play under him, but what was it for you to kind of? How was it for you to kind of see him come back? Not once but 4 times overall in the end.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's always tough returning as a player or as a manager because, like you say, the expectations change. I mean, look, I had a great relationship with Graham and loved playing for him. It was one of them where, yeah, you knew what he expected, you knew what was expected of everybody in the team, and you walked onto the pitch full of confidence and every belief that you're going to win every game. And so to see him keep going back and still, I mean, I know there's been like mixed results when he's gone back, but it's
Yeah.
one of them where Graham will do everything that he possibly can to get the best results in that time. And I know, like some will say, like there might be different approaches from managers, and that happens. But and then Dino's been there a couple of times as well, hasn't he? So there's been almost like that continuing thread running through the club for quite a while.
Yeah, Dino was assistant manager and even manager for season and a
Yeah.
bit as well.
Yeah, I saw that, and I've been like following Dino at Oldham as well. And like you see the statement that he put out when he's left Oldham, and
Yeah.
yeah, look, you can see like he's had his hands tied behind his back, his legs tied behind his back, and everything. So it's one of them where are you actually the manager, or is it somebody else pulling the strings, and you're just manager in namesake?
That's right. And of course, it's going to be difficult for him now to pick himself up from that after being sacked from 2 jobs in one season there.
Yeah, and look, it's tough being a manager. It's going to be hard enough being a player in these times with COVID around because like clubs funding, clubs finances are going to be hit. The fans aren't going to be in. It's going to be a tricky time. So I think if anything, it's going to be even harder to get a manager's job than it is to get in as a player.
Yeah. So I completely agree with that. So who would you say was the best player that you played with at Stevenage? That was a question that I got earlier from a guy called Paul Fry.
Yeah, I mean, there's people that were brilliant at what they did and maybe went unnoticed. Like really, Jules was a great keeper for us. If you look down the spine of the team, Jules was a great keeper for us. Jace Goodliff was that rock solid centre half that, as a skipper, you knew what you were getting from Jace, and he was a no nonsense. He was brilliant at what he did, and he was great for us. Danny Bowman in the middle of the park was our brilliant midfield player. So it's hard to say who was the best because you look at what's happened afterwards, and you'd have to say like what Boyd has gone on and done and played in the Premier League and everything he's done. He'd be the best player that played at Stevenage at that time, and even though he was only developing and was only maybe 19, whatever he was, the career that he's gone on and have, and the little snippets that he was able to see in training and in games, then you'd have to say, like looking back, Boyd was probably the best that was at that time.
And you mentioned Jace there as well. So what was Jace like, as a leader as well as a player?
Jace was top man. I mean, I travelled in with Jace every day, and funnily enough, when we both fell out of favour with Mark Stimson at the same time, we both went on loan to York for 3 months.
Yeah.
So we stuck together quite a bit, and he was great as a captain, and Jace is a type of character. I mean, to be fair, we were both the same. Even when we wasn't in favour with Mark Stimson at the time, we were both rallying around and getting everybody like up for games and wanting the best for the club. Because look, even if you're not involved in the team, it's not a case of right, let's hope they lose and everything else. It was right. How can we G these lads up? And that's why Jace's club captain was immense. Really, it was great for everybody to bounce off, and especially the young lads.
And yeah, Danny Bowman is still playing at Crawley as well. He's a seasoned vet in the Football League now, is Bully.
He's got to be 48, surely. How old is he? He's got to be knocking on now. In fact, Bully made me laugh from day one because the very first training session, I walked into like a circle, 15, 16, 17, 18 lads all doing a circle, and I was in the middle. And he said, "And what's your name then?" And like you're a bit taken aback.
Yeah.
And I don't even know why now. I look back and think, Jesus. And I said my full name. I said, "I'm Darryn Stamp." And he went, "Hello, Darren." And he just took the mickey out of my accent because I'm from Holland, because there's a little bit of a different accent. And right from the very first word, like he took the mickey out of me. But yeah, he's a great lad and great banter with him as well.
I'm trying to work out how old Danny would be. I think Danny's got to be
43. I'm 41 going on 42, and he's got to be younger than me.
I'm going to have a look. Bear with me. Danny Bowman, 1979. So that makes him
younger than me. Jeez. Yeah,
41, January 41, yeah.
No, fair play to him. Anybody that's still playing at 41, look, that's some achievement. That so fair play to him.
Yeah, so he's going to be 42 in a couple of months' time. Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
So yeah, he's a good player as well. Really tenacious midfielder there. You mentioned Jace, you mentioned AJ, Dino, Boydie, El Dino as well, as you said.
Yeah.
Who else was in that squad? Yeah, there was quite a few really talented players. Of course, Graham brought that lot in from Farnborough as well, didn't he?
Yeah, well, at the time, like you said, when I first joined, there was like Justin Gregory, Mickey Warner, Barry Laker. So they'd all like come with him from Farnborough, I think. So they did a good job. They did brilliant for him, to be fair. And then John Brady, Quinny. So there was a lot of good players there at that time, and that's why you look back and think like maybe we should have done better and maybe should have got promoted.
That's right. And I spoke to Bruffy a few times. Well, I spoke to Bruffy on here. I spoke to Braids on here already as well. And they're always great to chat to. And I'm in contact with Bruffy over LinkedIn and Braids over Facebook and that as well, because he's doing a bit of coaching with Northampton at the moment, doing some stuff with them. So yeah, there was quite a lot of seasoned pros in that squad, and yeah, it was unfortunate not to get promotion, but we've gone on and achieved it since. So there we are.
Yeah, there you go. And look, they're great lads. I'm the same with Bruffy and with John Brady. Like I lived with Brady for a bit. Bruffy came to my wedding and still speak to him now because he was one of my participants from my PhD that I did. So yeah, they're great lads as well that have been great to keep in contact with down the line.
So what was that in regards to, you were just saying about a PhD there? What was that in? So PhD what was that?
Yeah, so when I was playing part time, I came back to Hull and did a Bachelor of Science in sports coaching, and then carried on for 4 years and did PhD in sports science. So yeah, I've loved it, to be fair. It's been really good. So just looked into interestingly enough, the transition out of professional football. So great to interview players on their experiences and do my own piece on how I found it and everything that was going on, and look at the sociological side of it and our relationships and all that play a part in making that transition. So it's been really interesting and something that I love doing.
And that helped you get into the career path that you've gone into since once you've retired as well from football. Yeah.
So like my role now is like leader of a sports science degree over in Scunthorpe at the university. So yeah, it's helped me get into that, and then like my long-term goal really is to get more publications out there and more research out there alongside my teaching roles as well. So it's all good at the moment, enjoying it.
Okay, so that's really good. Just to have a little look if there's anything else on here that needs covering. So yeah, you moved out on loan to York City as well. That was under Mark when Mark Stimson had come in. Was that just in the hope that you'd get regular football there and then come back, player in good form to kind of put your name in the frame at Stevenage?
If I'm being honest, I kind of knew that I didn't fit into Mark's plans. And look, like I said, football's football. I didn't hold anything against him, the way that he played. I mean, we played against Grace for years, so we knew what his teams were like. And
yeah,
and I think fairly early doors, bringing Stevie Morrison in, I mean, how can I argue with bringing Stevie in and what he did for the club as well? So I think you just got to be realistic as a player, and I didn't mind that at all. I think York was more a case of me for going and getting some games and seeing what happened from there. I don't think, if I'm being honest, I really expected to go back to Stevenage and knock Stephen Morrison off his perch and play instead of him. I think it was just a case of, right, what am I going to do from here and where am I going to go? So, yeah, I mean, played a few games for York and then moved on from there. So, like I said, Jace was there with me at the time. Jace was there for me, so, and it gave me the opportunity to move back up north for a little bit as well. So, training with York, it'd be a case of I could move back home to my family and as well as getting some games during that period as well.
Yeah, that's actually it's a bit unfortunate the way it happened, but yeah, Steve Morrison is if Morrison hadn't come in, then we might not have won that trophy final. So there we are.
There you go.
Another message there from. Go on.
To be fair, Stevie was so good at what he did, and especially with the way that Mark wanted to play. I mean, look, I only end up in the air. Quick, mobile, no. I'm not, and I'm never going to be, whereas Stevie was. And then to have Boydie running off somebody who was quick and mobile, look, that partnership was brilliant, and it really did work over that spell. So, but it's funny because back early in my career when I was at Northampton, Stevie was actually my boot boy. So it almost turned full circle in terms of he came to Stevie, and I was watching him and watching him for that. So no, it was great. And look, the career he's gone on to have as well. Fair play to him. It's brilliant what he's gone on to do.
That happens a lot in football, doesn't it? Of course, with Stevenage and Macclesfield as well. That was Macclesfield being sent down at Stevenage's expense now, but that was Stevenage's first ever game in the Football League, was a home game against Macclesfield as well.
Yeah, exactly. So it tends to come back round, doesn't it?
We had a message there from Rye as well. I was just going to read that. Are you involved in football still in any aspect? So, in terms of playing or coaching or whatever?
No, I mean, I said 2 or 3 seasons ago, we had a season at North Ferriby where I was assistant manager in the Conference Premier. And to be fair, we had a good go. It was one of them where the budget, we didn't have a leg to stand on. We were always going to be up against it. We were part-time. The clubs that we were up against, I mean, that was when Lincoln was in there. There was still like the Wrexhams. There were so many big clubs in there. But it was good to be part of. It was good to go to the Tramleys and the big grounds and to have a go. And yeah, we got some good results in that, and it was a good experience. But having left North Ferriby, I'll be honest, it's not something that I'm really looking for at the moment. I've got a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old that are both loving football on a Sunday morning, and I love going and watching them play instead.
And how are they getting on with their football then? Are they enjoying it as well? Are they going to be decent? Are they?
Yeah, they're absolutely loving it. But they're both quick, so I don't know where they get that from. It's one of them. They're both good little players at the moment, and they're developing really well. So, look, I don't put any pressure on them whatsoever. Like you say, are they enjoying it? That's the key thing for me at this moment in time. And at the moment, they both are. They're loving it, and I probably love watching them more than I used to love being an assistant manager. So, it's great for us at the moment.
You wouldn't know too much about this potential signings for Stevenage. I don't know if you'd know anyone there that you think Stevenage could actually go in for, who would suit their style at the moment. You probably wouldn't know an awful lot about that, would you?
Not a great deal, to be honest. No, like I said, I'd be that out of touch with League Two football, especially, where I wouldn't know the first name to recommend. It's one of them where I'm sure Lenny Lawrence will have a blooming good idea about who will add something to that squad at the moment. So. I've just seen that message then. Yeah. That makes more sense. Well, you'd have a decent centre midfielder and a decent right winger. So yeah, they'll be great signings further down the line.
Yeah, so that's just in regards to, because we haven't said that on stream or anything. So about his 2 youngsters there, maybe they could get into Stevenage at some point. They might even be in the same team as Jules' young lad between the sticks as well.
Yeah, is he doing a job as well, is he? Yeah, that'd be great. Well, it's one of them where, look, I'm not even saying that they're good enough to do it, but I look at academies now, and I'm really not a fan. To see kids at 8 and 9 sign for professional clubs and have to train 4 nights a week and play on a Saturday and a Sunday, I can't get my head around it. I really can't. And like the first question you said was, are they enjoying it? And that's the main thing for me. At 8 and 9 years old, kids should be going out on a park on a Sunday morning having a laugh with their mates. To get that intense and put that much pressure on them from early ages, I don't like it, if I'm being honest.
No, that's fair enough. If they're enjoying it, then they'll be better players for that, I think, as well, because you can go out and express yourself, can't you? So
yeah. And the last thing I want is my 12-year-old kid going out onto a pitch feeling pressurised that he's got to perform, or he's going to be dropped and he's going to be given negative feedback. So yeah, it's a strange one for me.
We had one here. If they play anything like you, Darryn, they'll be great. So decent, role model for the 2 youngsters there as well.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I do. I look back at my time at Stevenage fondly, and yeah, I look back and, like I said, I like to think I did a good job, and that the fans knew what I wanted to do, and knew that I was giving my best every time I played. So it is something that I do look back at and think, yeah, I probably did do a good job at the time when I was there.
And who were your role models getting into football?
Do you know what? If my dad didn't play football, I don't know if I would have. It was only because I used to go and watch my dad play all the time, every Saturday, every Sunday, and go to training with him and everything else, that I've probably really got into it. I mean, don't forget, we're going back now when football wasn't on telly either, really. You used to watch the FA Cup final, and that was it, wasn't it? So you match of the day maybe, but now it's on TV all the time. So like it's different for my boys because they watch that many games of football. They've got different role models left, right, and centre. But yeah, I'd probably say, I know it's like sounds a bit corny, but my dad watching him play gave me that thing. You know what? I want to do that. I want to play. In terms of players, Ian Wright was mine growing up, and like
Ian Wright was class. He's
and
one of the reasons I support Arsenal, like or follow Arsenal, was down to Ian Wright.
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I was completely the opposite player to what he was, but he's one of them. To see him do well week in, week out and score the goals that he did, he made you want to be a professional footballer.
Richard there, yeah, you won't ever be forgotten down at Stevenage in a hurry, yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's brilliant. Thanks, mate. I mean, to be fair, the last time I played there, I got sent off.
Who was that for?
Was he playing for Northwich? I think I went and played for Northwich against Stevenage, and I can't remember. I think it was 2 yellow cards, but I remember getting sent off that Broadway way, and I've been mortified. But that was the last time I played there.
And so what was it like? Did you play alongside Ronnie? You know, you mentioned Ronnie there. I think you did play alongside Ronnie a few times, didn't you? What was he like?
Yeah, Ronnie was a funny character as well. He was a good player, and Ronnie was one of them that Graham could put him in any position and he'd do a job. He really did. He'd play right back, centre half, midfield. He could play anywhere, and I think that was one of his strengths. Really, you knew that you could rely on him wherever you played him. So,
unless you're playing him up front, because I think he only scored 3 goals in the whole time he was at the club.
Yeah, I won't put him as a goal scorer, nothing like.
And I'm talking to, I think it's Tyrone Searley. I'm going to be talking to one day next week, who come up through the youth team into the seniors, and he actually played in one of the games that Ronnie scored. So we'll talk about how strange it was. Yeah. Actually, see Ronnie at that end of the pitch. But no, we'll start to wrap it up in a minute. We haven't got too much more to cover. We spoke about Ronnie there. So we did speak about that already. Have you had the chance to come down to Stevenage at all? And you said you followed the club still a little bit in terms of results. Would you sort of be up for coming down to a game at some point in the near future when fans and ex-players and people like that are allowed back into the stadium again?
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, we went down to St Albans. It might have been last year, in the summer of last year. So we had a trip down there and spent a bit of time down there. But yeah, I mean, it's always something where going back to old clubs and to watch them play. Yeah, I mean, every time you get the chance, it's something that's nice to do. It's just with it being probably takes us 2.5 hours, 3 hours to get down there. It's something that we'd have to set up maybe like a weekend and we'd stay over type thing. But yeah, I mean, look, the ground was great, the club was great, and it'd be great to go back and watch a game at some point, definitely.
Just make sure you drive the car this time. Don't get anyone to do it for you.
No, not giving it to any physio. Jesus Christ, can't trust them.
Richard, if you were to come down, we'd love to have a drink with you in the bar. You've got the new North Terrace is up as well now. The new stand is now a 2,000-seater stand rather than just a couple of 100 people behind the goal like it used to be.
It looks brilliant. Any clips that you see on TV of the goals and everything behind it, that stand looks great. If I remember rightly, the shed wasn't that far. It wasn't that deep, was it? So
it wasn't. No.
Now it's that there, and especially with the other stands that you've got around the ground as well. Yeah, that's just like really the icing on the cake. And I know the plans were in place there when I signed, because that was another thing that kind of sold it at that time. It was a case of, look, we're wanting to expand, grow the stadium. This is what we want to do for it, and it did sound unbelievable. And yeah, now it's come to fruition. I think it looks brilliant.
And of course, we've got that away stand behind the goal, which has got another 2,000 odd behind there as well. The main stand gets about 2,000 odd, and of course the East Terrace. You can't take away the East Terrace because that's where all the atmosphere is. Yeah,
exactly, and that's where the noise is. That's what you want. That's where the fans go, and you like it like that. You want the loudness. You want the cheering. You want the songs. You want everything like that. So, and every ground needs to have that.
Absolutely. Yeah, we just got a little bit of one or two more to get through. What advice would you give to the younger version of yourself from what to expect in the future in your career?
What a great question that is.
That's great, isn't it? That's a brilliant question.
It is. I think with football, whenever possible, I mean, for me, don't get too high when you're high, and don't get too low when you're low. because there's always another game. And so you'll think you're the best thing since sliced bread and think you've cracked it and you've nailed it. And then the next game you'll have a stinker. And then when you've had such a bad game and you go on and you're feeling disappointed and everything's negative, you'll have a good game the next game and you'll get back up. So for me, that emotional balance for players had been massive if they could. And to be honest, I think that's what they do now. I think especially at the highest level, they don't look at social media. You go on social media after you've had a bad game, that's it, you've gone.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that I never did. Obviously, it wasn't around as much then, but social media I stayed away from because, like you say, you score 2, everyone's like, wow, look at this, he's amazing, and he's going to do that, and he's going to do this, and everything else. But then, yeah, great, if you're going to accept that, you've also got to be willing to accept that negative game and that bad game and what comes with that. And especially the type of player I was, if I didn't have a bad game, I was lazy, I was weak, I didn't give everything, and that's just something that you've got to accept as part and parcel of football, I suppose.
Yeah, that was an exceptional question. Really well really good. Yeah.
And it'd be interesting because I bet there's people who look back and think, should I have done it as well? Should I have made that jump and gone into it? But especially nowadays, if you think contracts are maybe going to be lasting 6 months, a year at a time, you're not able to plan like life, marriage, kids, whatever else, mortgages. It's going to be that up and down. It's going to be so uncertain and insecure all the way through the career. So to me, it'd be prepared for that. It's not going to be smooth sailing, and there's going to be ups and downs along the way.
Your brain works sometimes. Yeah, I'm sure it does. It's not bad. She's in America as well, so it's even it's the morning as well. So it's not bad for a morning question.
That's a great question. One I think you should ask everybody now.
Yeah. She'll say the same to me as well. She'll message me after and she'll be like, yep, that's one you have to add to every list now.
Yeah, right.
But no, in regards to what advice would you give to the younger version of yourself? That was a great answer as well. What advice would you give to anyone that wants to get into football or into sort of coaching as well?
I don't know if I'm going to be too negative.
No?
Look, for me, playing professional football is amazing and it's brilliant. But I think doing what I've done coming off the back of it, is I would try and advise as many people as they can to do something alongside football at the same time. Now, if that's studying for a degree, if that's something alongside, it's putting something in place for when football ends. And I think that's why when I talk about the academies, if people are getting into football at 8, 9, 10, and then they're getting all the way through to the career and that's all they've known, when that career finishes, it's a case of, what now?
Yeah, that's true.
So for me, it's a case of, and I'll tell you who's the prime example for it and who's an advocate for it, Mark Roberts.
Yes.
Who's legend and everything else.
Yeah.
He's now, he's the same as me, he's saying, look, he wished he'd have done a degree earlier. I remember going on away trips with Robbo when I was at Northwich and he was doing a CAD a CAD level 2 qualification, computer aided design for when he finished football, and then he's gone on to the degree. He's now doing a master's in something, and for me, that's what footballers need to think about, especially ones that aren't going to get into the Premier League and get the £1 million contracts and be set up for life. I'm more thinking of like the average Joe that's going to play League 2 or Conference and not have that nest egg at the end of it, the big fortune or pension that they're going to fall back on. For me, and managers maybe won't like that. Managers maybe see it as a distraction, and you're not focusing on football. You're thinking too much about the bloody degree that you're taking. Whereas, I think from a personal point of view, like looking at the individual as more than just a footballer, somebody who's like going to have to do something after their career as well. So for me, my advice would be: look, football's brilliant. Get on with it, love it, but start thinking as early as you possibly can. Right, what am I doing after it, or can I do anything alongside it to put me in a better position for when I do stop playing and not have the depression and the anxiety and the mental health issues that
comes after that once you've retired.
That'd be my take on it. And again, it might be on a negative perspective, and managers might say you can't do that, but for me, that's what I'd love to see. I'd love to see a full club have a day where they go and do a degree to give them something alongside it.
That's a great answer as well. And of course, Robbo, I've spoken to Robbo. Joel being another example as well. Joel does a bit of media stuff. He's just left Stevenage and he's now signed over at where was it? The
Celtic. Joel
Farsley, yeah, Farsley. That's it. Yeah,
yeah,
he's just signed for them.
So, but it's not the norm at the moment in time. It's not the norm in professional football. You're a footballer and that's it. Whereas now, especially like you say, with the funding and the contracts being less and everything else, can we try and support players while they're playing rather than just releasing them and saying, off you go, see where you can get to it.
There's a few players that I've spoken to, even off stream as well, that have said, even in regards to their injuries and things like that, that saw their career kind of cut short. That kind of sort of stuff kind of played a big part in their mental health as well. And that kind of had a bigger effect on them for that, upon having to retire.
And that's it. Even when you're in it, when you're in football, it's uncertain because there's injuries, there's not being selected, there's good games, bad games, so it's up and down all the time. If you've then got that once you've finished playing football, then for me, we need to try and do what we can to support players to make that transition. Yeah,
that's a great answer again. So I think that's probably about it, to be honest. I think we'll leave it with that, actually, Darren. So thank you very much for your time. I know we advertised this was going to go on a little bit earlier, but we were having a few technical issues and stuff, so we've managed to get it on at, what was it, about 20 to 4, I think, in the end.
Yeah, great stuff. Like I said, I tried to get on. I had technical issues, so I apologise. I felt like a student. I felt like one of my students that couldn't get on. So no, completely get that. But no, I appreciate it, Mike. Been great to talk to you. And look, hope Stevenage have a really good season and crack on from there.
All right, all the best with everything that you've got happening as well, in terms of your job role and everything else. We'll wrap it up. So I'm going to be back probably next week with another one of these now. And we're rattling through them, we're getting through them, and hopefully you can listen to a few of the others. I don't know if you've seen any of the other ones. Have you seen any of the other streams?
Yeah, I have seen some of them. I clicked onto the Jules, Brophy, and Braids, so I've seen them as well. So this is great, and as a fan, it's brilliant, especially when there haven't been any football, to be able to log on and to have the interviews and ask questions and speak to former players. It's a great idea. So no, fair play to you for doing it as well.
Cheers. Thanks a lot for that. And we'll end it there. So I won't take up any more of your time. Go out and enjoy the rest of your day.
Great stuff. Nice to speak to you, Mike.
Cheers, Darren. Thanks, mate.
Bye.
Bye-bye.